Hello and welcome to Jank It Up Fuzzball, episode 10. I'm your host, Brian, aka Jank Dameron, more than a pilot. People, it happened. It really happened. This past weekend, we had a Solidarity tournament at Kingwood Hobbies. It was a 45-card deck Solidarity tournament at Kingwood Hobbies. It had an entry fee, and we had 24 players, and it was awesome. So today, I'm going to recap my experiences at the tournament, my thoughts on the tournament, how the day went, talk about some of the various decks that people brought. And then, of course, we're going to crack a pack towards the end of the show. This pack provided by Kingwood Hobbies. So thank you to Trey at Kingwood Hobbies for being our cracked pack sponsor for the upcoming episodes. And, I'm not going to talk about my performance in detail. I'm going to save that for an article. I'm going to do a little bit of writing. I always enjoy reading when people post like my top second finish at regionals or whatever. It's just nice to see like, hey, in this round I was against this matchup and this is how it went. And I'm never going to place at a regional, or I'm never going to be something where I can really have something to crow about. But I want to write about the 5 matches I played. I didn't make top cut, spoiler. However, I didn't lose them all and I didn't win them all. And I'm okay with that. So probably the next week to 10 days, I'll get an article up on jankitupfuzzball.com that outlines my performance of the tournament. But there's just so much about the day and about the event that I want to get into. And I just want to lay out as a casual player going to certainly a janky event, but going to an event that was competitive. I mean, there was top-notch prize support. There were people there to win. It was fun, right? And I just want to talk about that. So I hope your Destiny lives have been good. I know Convergence is creeping up upon us. I was really frustrated at times because I keep wanting, like many of you probably, I want a release date for Convergence. And I made some, snide comments on Twitter, and someone gift at me with such a drama queen. And that's true. I don't know, like, why does it matter, right? The product will come when it comes. And I see that now, but it's just, I don't know. I guess I expect more out of FFG, but at the same time, I know that it's a dice and card game, right? This is not simply a card game that you can kind of control the manufacturing of. So I'm going to relax about all that, right? Convergence will get here when it does. It looks like it's going to arrive in March, so that's not that far away. And it's going to be exciting. It's going to be super exciting for rotation. It's going to be super exciting to get new cards. And that's what I'm going to say about that, right? There's been new spoilers, so if you're into that, obviously there's a plethora of podcasts and websites you can go to check that out. But bring on Convergence, right? And this event at Kingwood Hobbies, this tournament, it was called Altered Standard, in part because it was the 45-card deck. So it was a 40-card deck and a 5-card sideboard. And it was a way for us to kind of say goodbye to the Awakenings block, because at least in the Houston scene, outside of your weekly events, this was the last big tournament or event until rotation. So that was really, really cool. A little bit of a backstory on how this whole thing came to be was that I started this podcast and website about 4 months ago. I'm not asking you. I'm actually discouraging you from going back and listening to some of the earlier episodes. I know the first episode, I believe I had the mic turned around wrong. And, humble beginnings, right? But in 4 months, this is my 10th episode. That's exciting. I've nurtured the website. I enjoy web design by itself. And so I put a lot of time and effort into the website. So if you've never gone to the website, but you listen to the podcast, every once in a while, just do me a favor and hit up jankitupfuzzball.com. Look at my pretty pictures and my fantastic HTML and CSS that probably doesn't mean anything to you. But if it does, you get an idea. And, I wanted to be involved in the community, right? It's hard for me where I'm at in Houston. A lot of the scene is on the outskirts of Houston in the suburbs, and that's not where I am. And my immediate local scene is very, very, very quiet. I have the Greg meta, as I talk about, my friend Greg, my play buddy Greg. He's my most common opponent outside of maybe my son. And so I had this idea for a Solidarity tournament. I thought it was great. I heard some other people talk about having one, the Roll On guys. Corwin has had one up in Berkeley, and that really got my gears going. And I reached out to Trey Dismukes of Kingwood Hobbies. I had met Trey years and years and years ago through Magic, through a mutual friend playing Magic the Gathering. And it was interesting when I got into Destiny and I started joining some of the Houston Facebook group, and his name popped up. And I was like, that's Trey. Like, I know Trey. And then Trey runs his own online store, Kingwood Hobbies. And he was very active in the community. And last summer, I went to his store championship, which was a sealed event. I believe it was 25 players, and I went 0-3 before I won a couple of matches against the lower tier competition. And it was fun. It was intimidating because, again, I'm a casual player, right? But it was a lot of fun. It was great seeing that there is a thriving Destiny community in parts of Houston. And that was great. So it was a fun event. Trey ran it really well. And that's always been in the back of my head because Trey is a larger-than-life person. He is a big guy, but he goes all out for these events. And so when I was thinking about what store could I talk to about maybe having a solidarity tournament, because I have no home base, right? So I'm having to reach out to other people. Trey was the logical choice. And so I Facebooked Trey. I said, Trey, I have this idea. I have this podcast. It's about casual play, janky play. How do you feel about a solidarity tournament? And Trey pretty immediately said, yeah, let's do it. But then he doubled down on it by saying, let's make it a 40-card tournament with a 5-card sideboard, and we'll have top-notch prizes. And I was like, sure, that sounds great. I remember distinctly saying, do you think we'll get like 10 or 12 people? And he didn't say anything to that, but I think he knew he had plans far beyond 10 or 12 people. And we had 24 show up. So that was awesome. So yeah, if you've seen me post or talk about it, Trey came through with some huge prize support, right? He purchased a Vader spot gloss that he gave away to the top prize. He also had one of those Plo Koon Mother Talzin flip cards. He had a couple of Executioner promos. He had other spot glosses that he gave away just as store prizes, a Yoda, a Maul. And he even had the Darth Vader from the San Diego regional player who was caught cheating on stream, and he got out of the game. And Trey basically reached out to him and said, I'll buy your Vader. And the player signed the card and sent the die and the Vader card to Trey. And so as a door prize, someone got the Darth Vader that was part of the deck of the player who got caught on stream doing some things he shouldn't have been doing. And that just gives you a sense of how Trey goes about things. He does them big, always big. And that's awesome. And so for Jank It Up, this fledgling little casual podcast, to be hooked up to a presence like that was really, really exciting. And Trey really brought the community out. We had a third partner, and it was an Aegis creative company by a gentleman who goes by Press. He's a kind of a maker. He does streaming in one respect, so he streams a lot, and he has a really impressive setup for streaming. But he also has some 3D printing and some other tools at his disposal. He makes tokens, he makes deck boxes, does a lot of cool stuff, and he is one of the nicest people I think I've met. Genuinely just excited about it. You can tell he's a craftsman. He loves building and tinkering, and it was awesome. So the three of us kind of worked together to put this thing on. And Trey, on Saturday, Trey was the TO. Trey did not play, but he ran the tournament. It was at his house. His store, Kingwood Hobbies, is an online store. But he invited 24 players into his house. He had tables set up upstairs and downstairs. And he ran the show. Press and I were able to play. We bought in. There was a $20 entry fee, and that goes towards some of that prize support I talked about. But I was happy to pay that. And I got to play, which was awesome, right? So outside of playing Greg, I got to play other people in the community. I got to play against other cards that, aren't part of what me and Greg typically play. And Press also got to play. So he set up the streaming equipment. I'm going to link in the show notes on the website. There's going to be a link to the stream footage. We had 5 rounds of Swiss, and then we had a top 4. So if you want to watch any of those 5 rounds of Swiss or one of the semifinal matches and the finals match, you can go back and do that. Just go to jankitupfuzzball.com, find this episode, and then you can link over to the Aegis broadcasting stream. And just a huge shout out to both Press and to Trey for their prize support. Trey and Press worked together to make these dice trays. And imagine It's hard to describe, but I'll put some pictures. But it's a dice tray that opens up, two separate halves. You can lay them on the table in front of you, and they're meant to just the dice that are in your pool, excuse me, you can put in this tray. So they're not just out there on the table where they might get hit by rolling dice or whatnot. So it's not a carrier, but it's something that you can use in game. Once you roll your dice in, you can set them in this tray that has dividers, so it snugly holds each individual die. And it was great. Everyone that played got one of those. And that was made by Press and kind of brainstormed by Press and Trey. And that was super awesome. On the inside of the tray, it says Kingwood Hobbies, and it has the altar standard and the date, February 23rd, 2019. And it's a really great takeaway. For everyone that came and played, you get that. That was really awesome. Press also made a Sith holocron, right? I believe it was like 5 or 6 inches square on the bottom. It was a 4-sided Sith holocron. He totally manufactured it. It had some LED lights on the inside. And it was great. He basically gave it to me to give away to one of the jankier decks. So I ended up giving it away. Someone brought a 5-die Elite Talzin, Elite Loose Night Sister deck, which I thought thematically was great. So I handed that off to them. They were super happy to get that prize. And Press also made me some tokens, some Jank It Up resource tokens. So my logo is for the 4 dice of the game, the red, the blue, the gray, and the yellow. But we did a monocolor version of that, but they turned out really great. And so he made about 12 sets, maybe more than that, but he made a few sets that I gave out to not necessarily random players, but I gave it some players that played what I thought were some more fun decks at the tournament. And that was also really, really, really awesome. My contribution, if you follow me on social media, maybe you've seen me post some pictures of some drawing. I did a new alt art card for every player to just have. So I wanted to make an alt art. I enjoy making the alt art. I posted about my mall that I did and gave to the Golden Dice podcast crew that they printed, which was super exciting. But I wanted to do something for this event. It's a solidarity event. So I thought I wanted to make a card that, and this is kind of foolish of me thinking this. Now it makes perfect sense that no one's going to play this card. But at the time I thought at least it was an option. So I wanted to make a gray neutral card that maybe if someone at the event wanted to, swap into their deck, they could. So I was looking at my options. And I ended up pulling a card from the Rivals pack. Now, I think I started drawing this approximately a week before they announced Allies of Necessity, so that was a bit unfortunate. And I had an opportunity to pivot my card art to another, like a blue card perhaps, but I didn't want to do that because I would hate giving out blue cards if no one plays blue, for instance. But so I made an alt art version of Fight Back from Rivals. Now, Fight Back is a completely janky card that does not see play outside of Rivals, perhaps. It is a 1-cost gray neutral event, and it allows you to remove one of your dice to remove a die showing damage. So it costs you money, and you have to lose one of your dice, but you get to remove an opponent's die. And the artwork for it, I basically illustrated a scene from The Last Jedi where Rey is fighting the Praetorian Guards. I don't know if that's pronounced properly, but that's what I'm going to go with. And, I don't think I ever fully appreciated how vicious Rey was at the very end when she kind of dropped out of the clutches of a guard and then grabbed her lightsaber, came across his knees, rose up, and then came back across, just cutting him right through the throat and watching him fall backward. I mean, that's pretty harsh. And I thought it was really pivotal moment, right? Pretty exciting moment. And so the artwork for my alt art features a moment where Rey has basically cut through the neck of the Praetorian Guard. It's not as violent as it sounds, but I guess it is violent. No matter what, if you're cutting through someone's neck, it's not going to be good. But I did this, and I'm really proud of the art. I love the art. It's got the Jank logo on it, which is awesome. Everything's great. One minor flaw is that I decided to put the rival set icon and the card number on it, and I totally botched the card number. I wrote number 7. I don't know why, but it looks like it's rival 7 card, and actually Fight Back is 12. So those are things that eat me up as a designer. That's a mistake. Everything else is spelled right. All the important information is right, and I just overlooked the card number. So I'm just going to own that. The good news is probably no one's going to actually play with the card, so it shouldn't matter. But I gave away most of those. I have just a few of those left, and I may reprint them as maybe. I think it's cool art. I spent a lot of time on it, so I don't know. I'm going to fix it, and maybe I'll print a few more. But everyone got one of those. I ran it in my deck just because I did it. It's my card, right? So I wanted to do that. But everyone got a copy of Fight Back. I also, Jack of the Golden Dice allowed me, because I reached out to him, say, hey, where can I print cards? And he gave me some information. Jack allowed me to reprint my mall design. So I slapped on my Jank logo and adjusted some colors a little bit and then reprinted that. I gave some of those away. And I sold a few just to recoup some of my costs. So $5 a pop for some mall alt art. If for any reason you don't have one, you didn't get one from Golden Dice, and mall's a favorite character of yours and you would like one, $5 and I'll ship it to you, right? No problem. Stick it in an envelope and it can be yours. Just reach out to me if you're interested in that. That kind of thing. I think I am going to eventually put a page up with my alt art. So if anyone's interested, I'm not going to go the Patreon route, but anything to offset the costs of having a podcast is good, right? So if you're interested in that, let me know. Moving on, the event itself was great, right? So we had 24 players. There were 2 women playing, which was great. There was also a child. He must have been 6 or 7 playing with his dad. Trey was really great, accommodating, making sure that the dad and the son were playing next to each other at all times. That was really great. And, there was a good mix of competitive players. There were clearly some players there that I've seen through the Houston Facebook group that are the more competitive players that travel around the state to go compete and win. But then there were also some casual people there that were there just to have fun. And I was excited. And then there were obviously competitive players that were playing less competitive decks, right? In the spirit of the event, they were playing some truly janky stuff, which I also very much appreciated. So the event itself was good. I have on the website, I've listed, or I'm going to list all of the decks that showed up. We had 24, and I'm real big into data, right? So I was really excited to copy all the decks and talk through them. So I thought I'd spend a couple of minutes right now just talking through the decks, and then I'll tell you who the top 4 were and walk you through that. Again, if you want to watch the kind of the end of the tournament, you can do that on the Twitch stream, and the link is provided on the website. But we had 24 players, so 24 decks, and 14 of those were blue, 4 of those were red, and 6 of those were yellow. And the most common character, as you might expect, was Darth Vader, Terror to Behold. He was in 6 of the 24 decks, right? So 25% of the field featured Big Daddy Vader. He was paired 4 times with Luce, once with Dark Advisor, and once with Servant of the Dark Side. There were only 2 other decks besides Vader that showed up more than once, and that was Old Man Luke, Temple Guard. There were 2 of those in the tournament. And also Count Dooku, or Dooku 2, the second Dooku, and the first Anakin. There were 2 of those in the tournament. And that proved to be a really good deck, because running Theed, you have Dooku, who's able to turn dice to sticks and mitigate dice that are sticks. And you have Anakin, who's running sticks, and he's also a neutral character. So really smart meta play in terms of that. We had, like I mentioned, we had 6 yellow. So we had Jabba 2, Han 3. Turned out to be a pretty successful deck. So just getting upgrades, getting things with specials, and blasting through. We had a Hondo Leia Bouche. We had a Han 3 Leia Bouche. We had a Bo-Katan Maz. That was pretty crazy to see. A Val Rebel Trader DJ deck. We had a Balatik Boba Beckett deck. That's 3 die start, so I'm not exactly sure how that finished up, but that's a tall order. In red, I ran E-Po Rose Clone Trooper. I have a soft spot for Rose and vehicles. There was another vehicle deck featuring E-Po Biggs Rookie Pilot. Someone ran E-Cody Rex Clone Trooper. And then there was an E-Tarkin E-Iden as well. Some of the other blue decks, there was, like I mentioned, that 5-die Talzin Luce Night Sister deck. There was also a Qui-Gon 2 Yoda deck. There was a Rey Kit deck, E-Ray 2 E-Kit. And there was also, lastly, an E-Ray 2 Temple Guard. So quite a mix of that. Notice there was 1 Yoda. There was 0 Snoke. And that was kind of interesting. But I guess Snoke at 14 just doesn't have, where do you get those other 17 points for solidarity in blue? Obviously, that's probably difficult. So I was a little bit surprised by that. We saw Yoda only once. I was happy that we saw as many yellow decks as we did. I wasn't sure what would happen. And, I was actually kind of surprised we only saw 4 red decks. So blue wins the day for sure. And out of those 14 blue decks, 3 of those made top 4. The one non-blue deck making the top 4 was piloted by a great player named Lawton here in Houston. He ran the Jabba 2 Han 3. He went undefeated in Swiss and also won his top 4 matchup and make it to the finals with that deck. So that was super impressive. He was also running Theed, so Han being a neutral character gives you even some action cheating there when you use that power action. Both Dooku Anakin decks made top cut. So we talked about how Dooku being able to flip dice and then Anakin being a neutral character using Theed. Both of those decks made it S2 and 3. They actually got paired off in a mirror match in the top cut. And then one Vader Loose, one of the Vader Loose decks made number 4 in the top cut. So 5 other Vader decks came up short, but Vader cast a long shadow over the afternoon for sure. And exactly how long? Man, I gotta take a moment here before we dive into the top 4 and say that my buddy Greg, he was on the fence, but he decided the night before to go and compete, and I was super excited. I had already built up 2 decks. I had totally sleeved 2 different decks to take, just on the off chance I wanted to, run something more jankier than what I ran. I ran a more competitive red deck, but I also had a triple Jedha Partisan little Anakin deck that had 31 health and would be kind of fun, but it had no win condition. And considering these were 40 card decks instead of 30 card decks, like milling wasn't really viable. So I made the right choice. I went with the red deck as opposed to the yellow deck. Just last night, actually, I ran the yellow deck against my son, playing my vehicle red deck, and he pretty much kicked my tail. I didn't even have to give him too much help, right? He just rolled fire and did good stuff. So I made the right choice on what I brought to the tournament, but it clearly didn't get me to the top 4. But Greg did. This was Greg's first ever Destiny tournament. Super proud of him. Super excited for him for coming. He was the one running Ray Kit, E-Ray E-Kit. And, he has a lot of cards from the Legacies block and forward, but he doesn't have, I guess all of it's the Legacies block at this point, but he didn't have a lot of Awakenings block. So Saturday morning, we frantically kind of said, hey, you should put this in your deck. And he came over and I gave him probably 8 or 9 cards, including some non-Awakenings cards like Dagger Immortus and things, just to pump up his deck. And again, it's a 45 card deck, right? So they're all unique. So you have 45 unique cards. And then once you see your opponent's lineup, you take out 5 cards. So you don't have to show those to your opponent. You just take them out, put them away, and then you play with a 40 card deck. So that was really awesome to have that flexibility to say, oh, well, I'm not playing this kind, so this card's dead to me. I can get rid of it. But it's still 40 unique cards, right? So the odds of you seeing a certain card is very, very low. So Greg, we rode separately because I know Greg had some time constraints and I was going to be there for the long haul. I wanted to see it out all the way through. So he showed up. I was already there. I was super excited for him. His very first competitive Destiny, outside of our circle of friends or me, he's never played anyone in Destiny that I know of anyway. And he gets paired up round 1 against Vader Loose. So not exactly the thing you want to see, right? I mean, Greg owns a Vader thanks to our box pool the other day, but playing Vader is difficult. And he actually playing against Todd. Todd was the one that finished top 4 with this particular Vader Loose build. And it didn't go well for Greg, right? I think at one point Todd just hit Kit Fisto with 8 damage in 1 action, and it just didn't go right? So, hey, he got Vadered. We all get Vadered. That's fine. Round 2 for Greg. Vader Loose. Like, so right after one Vader, he goes into another Vader, suffers another defeat. Greg's 0-2, having gone up against 2 Vaders. So not great, but, I'm hoping that he'll get another matchup. I'm hoping he'll get something that he can really work with. Round 3 for Greg, Vader. I think it may have been the Vader and the Servant of the Dark Side. It was not Vader Loose, but still. Greg had 3 matches against Vader. That one was close. My round 3 finished in time where I could go and look over Greg's shoulder a little bit. It was close. Greg played it really well, but Vader does Vader things. And, there was a fist on the table, and what are you going to do? So Greg went 0-3, and then he had to bail, right? He had other obligations to do it. So I feel really bad just for the play experience, right? No one wants to get rolled off the table. And so there, 25% of the decks had Vader. Greg just happened to meet up with half of the Vader field, right? 3 of the 6 decks. And that was it. And, I hope it wasn't a negative play experience. I want him to kind of be my wingman, to encourage me and go with me as I go to store championships and things like that, because I want to play a little more competitively, or, casual competitive, as I say. But it was unfortunate for that. To his credit, Greg had a lot of fun, and he also made a point to come, as he was leaving, he said, hey, these people are super nice. And they are. And he's totally right, because he said, you know what, someone let me borrow a playmat. I don't have a playmat. He said also, even during a game, some of them were like, you really should do this instead of that. And, it is a casual competitive day, right? There are some players who are obviously playing to win a Vader spot gloss. But for the most part, I think we recognize that, hey, we got some newer players here. And people were nice to me. People were nice to Greg. And that really did make me feel good, right? So even though Greg came and got Vader 3 times, people were nice, and he recognized that, and he appreciated that in terms of what you may think of a gaming community, these were good people. And I will echo that. I was there. It was a long day there. I spoke to a lot of people. I had great conversations through and through. Everyone was super nice. Everyone was just helpful of each other. Everyone smiling, laughing. There was no controversy, thankfully. And there shouldn't be. It's a solidarity tournament, right? But it was good. And I just want to give a shout out to all the Houston people that went, that were super nice. It's a little intimidating for me as a casual player to go into some of these settings, but someone said, hey, I recognize you by your voice. And that really brought a smile to my face, because that means A, someone's actually listening to this in Houston, and B, they were just super nice to me. And that was great. And they were nice to my friend, which is even more important. The fact that Greg had a good time, even though he got rolled off the table 3 times, was good, because I want Greg to persist. I want Greg to still love this game and appreciate this game. Who knows? Maybe getting Vader 3 times is going to inspire him to chase down a second Vader die and then just build the monster that he couldn't beat. That's entirely possible. We will see. So that was Greg's day. It is what it is. Top 4 after 5 rounds of Swiss. We gave out Trey gave out a lot of the door prizes. So once the official tournament was done, he gave out door prizes. The little kid, I forget his name, but he won the Talzin Plo Koon flip card, which was super nice. He was super excited, right? So here's a young player. He did great. He survived many hours of Destiny, and his dad was super great. They were having a good time, and he gets to go home with a flip card, which is amazing. Trey had lots of promo cards to give out to other players. There was a Yoda spot gloss that went to a player who didn't have any Yoda, but then all of a sudden you have people discussion say, hey, if you want to play Yoda, I've got an extra, or here's how you can get some Yoda die. And then it was great. So he gave away a Maul spot gloss, which is awesome. And the name he drew for that already has one. And he was like, hey, give it to someone else. I don't need it. And that's a completely selfless thing to do, because spot glosses generally, you can probably put them on the market and get something. And he was like, hey, yeah, I don't need it. Give it to someone else. And then my name came up. And I could have been the kind of person where I'm like, you know what? This is kind of my tournament. You should give it to someone else. But it's Maul. It's a spot gloss Maul. And I just, I said, hey, that's awesome. And I took it. So let this be a lesson. If you want a spot gloss, rather than go to a GQ and grind pods, just organize a tournament where you have a TO that has some amazing prizes, and then hope that your name somehow gets drawn. I don't know what to say. It's awesome. I have this. I'm looking at it right now. It's cool to have a spot gloss. It's great. For a casual player to have something like that is really special. I'll probably hang on to it. Part of me is also looking at it and saying, well, this will pay for a convergence something, right? This will help. But for now, it's great. The irony being that I have my own alt art Maul. So when I play Maul, I use my art. But now I have this spot gloss, and It's a good problem to have, obviously, but what do you play with? Do you play with the spot gloss or do you play with your own art? It seems like consensus was you play with the spot gloss. So we will see. Top four was, like I said, top four, number 2 and 3 were both the mirror match Dooku Anakin, and that was won by the 2 seed, which is a gentleman by the name of Ryan, and he beat Christian. They were both running Dooku Anakin. The other match that's on stream is Todd's Vader loose deck against Lawton's Han Jabba deck. And I thought Jabba showing up at this tournament was super exciting, personally, because I like that Jabba 2. I like that character. I like the ability to try to rack up the specials. And so Lawton won that. So Lawton had gone 5-0 in Swiss and then 6-0 heading into the final. He played Ryan. They actually met in the last round of Swiss, and Lawton won that game, even though it was a meaningless game. They were both going to move on. And they go to the final. It's on stream. You can watch it. But the big point, the turning point in the game, was a round 1 shriek that Ryan threw down on Lawton and removed a slew of his special dice, right? Special side dice, excuse me. And that was it. So Shriek, a 2-cost event featuring Porg, was the big swing, right? The game lasted for a few more rounds, but Lawton was playing catch up and he couldn't get it done. And so Ryan took home the Spot Gloss Vader, which is awesome. Tremendous accomplishment. You know, thinking about it, Dooku Anakin with Theed is a great team. You know, you got the action cheating of Theed, thanks to the neutral character, and you've got all the ways to fix your dice into damage. It was awesome. So shouldn't be a surprise, I guess, that both those Dooku Anakin decks made it into the finals. So go check it out. The tournament was a blast. It was great seeing the camaraderie. You know, even as the finals were going on, some other players stayed back and they were playing like their weekly progressive league matchup, just hanging out. Trey was more than accommodating all day long. You know, he had snacks to purchase, and he had packs to purchase, sleeves. Obviously, you know, it's a business for him. So he's there, but everyone had a good time. Everyone went home happy, I believe. I certainly did. I'll check in on Greg. I haven't heard from him, so hopefully Greg went home kind of happy. But it was awesome. And I know with Convergence coming up, there's a lot of talk around the internet of building communities. And I know the Jedi Trials are talking about what you can do to build a community. And that's all great. And it's getting new players in. This is the perfect time. But having some events, there's a lot of solidarity tournaments going on around the country right now. I think that's great. All this stuff is good. And, you know, I only wish I lived, well, I don't wish I lived in the suburbs. I shouldn't say that. But I wish I had a stronger community more local to me. But in the meantime, I know that there is a community just outside, right? I can get there. I can't get there on a weeknight, perhaps. But on these kinds of events, I need to be able to get there. Even as a casual player, I want to go and support the other Destiny players in the community. I want to support the stores that support the game. I want to support someone that like Press, who puts in his time and effort to make these things and give a good chunk of it away, right? I mean, that's so generous of Press to provide the streaming and also provide prize support. That's amazing. And for, again, just awesome job by Trey and Kingwood Hobbies. I'm going to link in the show notes to both Kingwood Hobbies and Aegis Creative Company. Check them out, right? If you're in the Houston area, you probably already know them, but if you're not, check them out. Kingwood Hobbies ships worldwide. So, you know, I know you have a lot of options of where to buy your Destiny product, and a lot of them are great. And I think Kingwood Hobbies is right up there with them as well. Wow, we are so late. 34 minutes. I apologize, but I had a lot of good stuff to say. Let's dive into we're going to crack a pack, and this pack is from Trey, right? I explained to Trey, I said, hey, Trey, one of the features of my podcast is I crack a pack, and I was wondering if Kingwood Hobbies, and I don't even think I finished the sentence, and he just reached into a box, grabbed a few packs, and said, here you go. He said, when these run out, let me know, and I'll send you some more. And so thank you, Trey. Thank you, Kingwood Hobbies. I have a Across the Galaxy booster right here. Let's see what we got. It is a red die. Oh, this is exciting because it is something I don't have, right? So I went ahead and deemed the last cracked pack, episode 9, the worst cracked pack yet. But this one's already in good terms. So the rare is Clone Commander Cody, Loyal Strategist. It is a character. He has 9 health. He is a character, a leader, and a trooper. His die side reads 1 range, 2 indirect, 1 resource, and a special, and a miss. His text reads, while building your team, the point value of each clone trooper is decreased by 1. And his special reads, take control of the battlefield and use its claim ability or power action, even if it's been used this round. And he is 9 points for single die and 13 points for elite. So this is cool. I'm excited to have this because I don't have one. I do. Obviously, I have a clone trooper. I ran it in the tournament. I know Greg has a clone commander Cody as well, which he pulled in one of our sealed events. So maybe I can trade for his clone commander Cody, because I would love to build a trooper deck. I was excited that there was a kind of a trooper deck at the tournament. So that's cool. Let's move on to our here's our uncommon, and it's Theed Royal Palace on Naboo. Power action, gain 1 resource. Spot a neutral character to take 1 additional action. So as of right now, as of today, this is a great pack already. I've already enjoyed that I got a character I didn't have, and I got Theed. Now, I already have a Theed, but Theed is where it's at, right? All 4 of the top 4 decks at our Solidarity tournament ran Theed. It's going to get nerfed. I think that's pretty obvious. Jeremy hinted at that on the Covenant cast feed, that something's coming down, but for now, we'll take Theed. What are the commons? Here is Imposing Presence. It is a villain, a 1-cost villain event. It's got some awesome art of a Star Destroyer hovering over the city. Remove an opponent's die if they have 3 or fewer cards in hand, or remove 2 of an opponent's dice if they have no cards in hand. Like it. I like it a lot. Next up, we have a hero event, 0-cost hero event called Hold Off. Play only if you have 1 or more dice showing a shield. So that's something you have to meet that requirement. Remove a die showing melee damage or give a character 1 shield. So you have to have a dice, at least 1 dice showing a shield, and then you can remove a die showing melee or give a character 1 shield. But it costs you nothing, so that's good. And lastly, a yellow card. Man, we got a nice mix here. Good pack tray. Thank you very much. This is a yellow villain event. It costs 1. It is Exploit. Play only if an opponent has no resources. Remove 1 of that opponent's dice. This is awesome. I am super excited about that because at the tournament, I actually traded for my second Tobias Beckett. So this would slot in to a Tobias Beckett deck that I'm working on. I'm thinking on running Elite Tobias, Elite Kira, which I looked up in the database and no one's run that. So that guarantees it's already trash. But I have to run it with Solidarity, obviously. But anyway. I was happy to have that. I'm happy to build a more yellow villain, and this card fits. So just to recap, I got Clone Commander Cody, Theed Royal Palace, a red event, Imposing Presence, a blue event, Hold Off, and a yellow event, Exploit. This is a great pack. This makes me super happy. This just keeps the good times going. So, hey, it's a super long episode. I've got nothing but great things to say about the Solidarity Tournament. I will follow up with my own performance, how I went in each of my matchups, and an article in the coming, hopefully in the next week or so. But go to the website. You can see all the pairings. You can see some of the prize support. You can see a picture or 2 from the event. And, check out Kingwood Hobbies. Check out Aegis Creative Company, And I'd appreciate it. Hey, thank you for listening. It's a long episode. I really try to keep these short, but got a lot to say. Got a lot of praise to give and a lot of excitement. Hopefully you can hear that. It was a super fun time. And I'm just really, really thrilled to have been able to be part of it. In the meantime, play some jank, roll some dice, have some fun. We'll talk to you then.